Hello and welcome to Week in Review with me, Jane Secker. Kevin Maguire and Roy Nika are here to look back at the biggest stories of the last 7 days. What have been your top stories?
Well, Jane, I think it's great news Nissan's staying in Sunderland, but what have the government bribed them with?
Roya?
Mine is definitely Donald Trump's Hollywood Walk of Fame star being smashed by a sledgehammer.
Oh, well, more on both of those in a second. But first, our top story of the week. After more than a decade of waiting, the plan for a third runway at Heathrow was given clearance for takeoff. But in its wake, it left political division and resignation. Here's our political editor, Faisal Islam.
It is the airport with the most traffic in Europe. But right now, Heathrow's runways are no longer the busiest in the world. After more than a decade of fudge, the government finally deciding on an extra runway here.
This is a project that will demonstrate very clearly to the world that Britain is open for business post-Brexit. It's a project that will open up opportunities around the United Kingdom.
But that caused this. The former mayoral candidate, Zac Goldsmith, fulfilling his promise to quit as a Richmond MP, forcing a delicate by-election for the government.
I've resigned as your Member of Parliament and I'll be standing in the by-election as an independent candidate. This election must be a referendum on Heathrow Expansion.
The Lib Dems, though, see a referendum on Brexit instead. And mindful of that, the Conservatives extraordinarily not even fighting a seat they won by 23,000 only last year. Perhaps that is why he sounds rather confident.
People here feel as strongly about the issue as I do. There's no, you could have a referendum on Heathrow and you'd have Zimbabwean-esque results. Almost everyone is opposed.
The government accepted what it called world-leading assurances on pollution and noise, but local councils will take it to judicial review. So a new terminal and a new runway due in to land in a decade's time.
Do you think it was the right decision, Kevin?
No, I'd have gone for Gatwick. I know that area quite well. There's 800 homes will be bulldozed, many thousands more will be blighted. So much pollution and congestion already around there, and it's interesting that now they've got the green light, the people behind Heathrow, they're already trying to cut back how much they're going to spend on it, and there are big challenges to this idea that we somehow gain 141 billion, which is an invented figure. Well, you know, that's even been rowed back against.
And Zac resigning, he had to, didn't he? He couldn't really step back from that promise.
He absolutely had to. I mean, it was his manifesto pledge. He'll run as an independent. The Tories have come out and said they're not going to fight that seat. I think the only question for him is that it's now turned out that UKIP are going to back him, and I think that will be something he may come to regret and want to distance himself from, but I'm absolutely sure, given the issues he's fighting on, it's his constituency that's so affected, he will walk that by-election.
I live in that constituency. I think the Lib Dems will run him very close.
Yeah, well, historically, it was Lib Dem, wasn't it? So the other big economic news this week, Nissan, you mentioned at the beginning, a great vote of confidence in the Sunderland plant and a great vote of confidence from industry in Brexit.
No, absolutely. And it's a relief, 7,000 jobs directly, many more in suppliers, and so like 80% of the cars, of 500,000 or so a year, are exported. But what have the government had to give Nissan? Because Nissan have been playing tough. They've got something the government's not telling us. You're going to get other companies, Jaguar, Land Rover, Honda, Toyota, BMW. They'll all come along with the manufacturers too. So I think in the interest of transparency, the government should come clean.
OK. Well, those were our top news stories on a busy news week. But here are 5 things that you might have missed. Central Italy was hit by another earthquake just 2 months after the one which left large areas devastated. Fortunately, nobody was killed in the tremors on Wednesday night, but it brought down buildings left weakened by August's quake.
The security forces are pretty convinced that some members of Islamic State will try to get out of the various villages and towns, and of course Mosul, that they've been holding, to carry out attacks amongst the displaced people.
Our chief correspondent Stuart Ramsey followed the Iraqi army's advance towards Mosul. Progress was slowed by the burning oil fields, torched by Islamic State, and the ever-increasing humanitarian crisis. Pete Burns, the singer in the pop group Dead or Alive. Shall I do it? Yeah, go on then. He died at the age of 57. I'm sure he would approve. After suffering a heart attack, he shot to fame in the 80s, but was most recently known for his stint on Celebrity Big Brother. Also this week, a protester took a sledgehammer to Donald Trump's star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Roy is punching the air. A man dressed as a construction worker said he damaged the monument to try to remove the star so that he could auction it to raise funds for the women who've accused the Republican presidential candidate of sexual assault. And from one would-be leader to another for our gaffe of the week, and for some this stunt was the moment Ed Miliband lost the election. But even now, almost 18 months on, the Ed Stone still hangs around Labour's neck. The monument to Miliband cost more than £7,500 at the time, cost the party a further £20,000 after they failed to declare it on their election spending return. It was Kevin Ed's Moses moment. Will he live it down?
Never. It'll be with him all the way, and it did symbolise why he wasn't going to win that election, because the Conservatives have got their own problems with expenses and bus tours.
We don't quite know what happened to it, do we?
No.
It went to an industrial estate.
Yeah, they're trying to hide it. It was going to be ground down, but it's whether they could get it out of the storage unit without people seeing it and taking photographs of it. I'm sure it'd be a nice ornament in somebody's
I think it's fair to say it's not probably in a Miliband household.
No, it could be used as a table or something. You could turn it over, use the back of it for something
and
useful.
scribble on it some notes.
Don't forget, send us your nominations for Gaffe of the Week using the hashtag WINR. Now, this week, the so-called jungle at Calais, home to thousands of migrants and refugees, began to be demolished. Sky's Mark Stone was there for us.
Early morning on the edge of the jungle. Everything appeared to be going well. At least that's what the authorities were claiming. We watched the numbers swell quickly. And in the line for under-18s, most undoubtedly were. They were supposed to have been registered first, but they're still waiting. Their night had been spent here, a jungle that had been ablaze for several hours. Yet, amid the mess, the chief of police in charge of all this told us it was all now under control. But an hour later, this. Blazes taking hold across the camp. In such a cramped space, they spread quickly. Many are still living here, adults and children, some unwilling to leave, most just unable to register. Those children who have registered have been housed here, an area that the authorities said would be safe and secure. It's not. In just one brief chat with one young man, you get a clear sense of the multiple layers of misery here.
Sometimes I ask her to God, please, God, kill me, because it's a dirty life. This is Europe? I don't think so. This is not Europe.
And now the only place they could call home has gone.
Roy, it has been officially cleared now, but it's clear that there are still quite a number of migrants in that area. The French haven't succeeded in getting rid of all the people who are living there.
No, they haven't. I think they've done a pretty good job. I mean, there's been sort of minimal violence and disruption clearing that site, but it is worrying that we're hearing that on the ground there are still around 1,000 people, including a lot of children, still there. And local MPs have said, you know, it is up to the French government to act responsibly and find out what they're going to do with them. And Amber Rudd, again, of course, keeps reminding France they need to take responsibility for those migrants.
Do you think this in any way will stop the problem of migrants travelling through Europe trying to cross the channel, either getting onto lorries or getting onto boats or just trying to get here? I
suspect not completely, Jane, because there is still the problem of people who fled terror or terrible conditions, and they're in Europe. That camp was a stain on the whole of Europe, not just France. And some of them want to come to Britain because they will have relatives or they will have friends, they will know people, they will speak English. And if they come, I've got to argue once again that they make a contribution to Britain, and they don't come for benefits, they come to work, and there will be people there who will be the leaders of the future, and they will be people with great talent and potential that we can use.
It does also beg the question, Roy, that they're able to do this in 2.5 days, why they didn't do it earlier.
You're absolutely right, it does. I think it sounded like there was so much tension between the French government here. You know, Amber Rudd last week in the House saying that actually, despite what the French were saying, her officials couldn't even get into the camp until last week to find out how many children were there. France saying that wasn't the case at all. This should have been done a long time ago for the migrants' sake, and I think the French and British governments need to work much more closely on this problem.
OK. Right, quick quiz for you both now. Can you tell me who's been criticised for indulging people's sweet tooth? Do you know at home? We'll find out after the break. back to Week in Review with me, Jane Secker. I'm joined by Kevin Maguire, Associate Editor of the Daily Mirror, and the journalist Roya Nika. Now, before the break, we asked who's been criticised for indulging people's sweet teeth? And you know.
I think I know. Is it the Prince of Wales and his ice cream, which has been accused of having way too much sugar?
It is. Sworn enemy of dentists. Prince Charles, his ice cream, which is a Dutch original sold in Waitrose, has twice the amount of sugar that other ice creams similar.
There's nothing sweet about this freeloader, is there?
They argue that it's a luxury product, that it's not aimed at children, and that there are other lower sugar alternatives available.
For the lower orders, the little people.
The producer's very pleased about his next joke, which he's written for me to say, which is, it means he's not just the makers of crowns for your head.
Oh.
Boom! Well done, Adam.
So bad, actually.
Right.
For him.
Moving on. Groaning at home. This week, two bakers who refused to make a cake with a message supporting gay marriage lost an appeal against a ruling that their actions amounted to discrimination. Sky's David Blevins reports.
Gareth Lee had gone to this Belfast bakery to order a cake, iced with a slogan supporting gay marriage. Ashers was found to have discriminated by refusing to bake it. But Daniel and Amy MacArthur, the Christian couple who run the business, have told Sky News they feel the law has discriminated against them on the basis of their faith.
We're disappointed with the way it went, and yes, maybe they didn't consider how much our conscience affects us as Christians, just in how we run our business. But we still believe that God is in control.
Do you have any sympathy for Mr. Lee and for others from the LGBT community who sometimes feel victimised in Northern Ireland?
Well, we never meant to cause anyone any offence, but at the same time, as Christians, we've certainly felt victimised by the Equality Commission of Northern Ireland.
The Equality Commission for Northern Ireland, who brought the case on behalf of the customer, welcomed the appeal court judgment, upholding the original verdict. Ashers Bakery had unlikely support from gay rights campaigner Peter Tatchell. He branded the verdict dangerous, authoritarian, and a defeat for freedom of expression.
Do you think it's right that they lost this appeal? Should they be allowed to refuse to bake anything, or should they be forced to bake something against their will?
Well, they're right not to bake a cake. Yeah. No, come on. Otherwise, you'll start turning away people you just don't like or agree with.
They said that equally they wouldn't have baked a cake with a swear word on it, or they wouldn't have baked a cake with a rude message on it, or something that was discriminatory against somebody else. They said they wouldn't have baked that either.
Yeah, but there was nothing rude or sweary about that. It's a kind of a straw argument, isn't it? Just put up to knock down. No. If you allowed this, you would then allow B&B owners to say you're not going to allow gays, or electricians, or plumbers, or all people. Look, we live in a very open, tolerant society, and that requires you to be tolerant of other people. And they were going to discriminate against these two gay people.
They argue, though, that they're not discriminating against them because they're gay. They said they've made cakes for lots of gay people before. Yeah. They just don't want to make a cake with a pro-gay message.
I hear what they're saying, but I would never criticise someone for having strong faith, which clearly they do. But to hear them talk about feeling discriminated and victimised for the judgment, I just thought that was a little bit ridiculous. I totally agree with Kevin on this. I think it's wrong to start turning away people on the basis of their sexuality or anything, particularly in this country where gay marriage is legal now, which is a great thing.
Yeah, these bakers want their cake and eat it if they think they can run a business and then discriminate against some people. You can't.
Okay, on to your choices of top paper stories of the week. Roy, we're starting with you. A pretty spicy week in the world of UKIP.
Another ridiculous week in the world of UKIP. As Kevin calls him, Mike Wright Hookham. Yes, I mean, UKIP have found that Stephen Wolfe, who accused Mike Hookham, alleged that he'd thrown a punch. Their investigation has found that he didn't, and that actually Stephen Wolfe started it. It is so, he said, she said. It's ridiculous. This party is now completely at the sort of point of collapse. And Stephen Wolfe, going into this, formally made his bid for the leadership, is now still talking about would he possibly defect to the Tories. I don't think the Tories would have him after all of this. It's made UKIP look even more ridiculous than it did before.
If that was possible, I think.
If that was possible,
it's like trying to separate squabbling toddlers, isn't it?
Exactly.
Oh, it is. I mean, they run from an industrial estate near Newton Abbot, and what is it? The third leader they're trying to get in a matter of months. But it's incredible. They won the big one on the Brexit vote, and they've fallen apart since. Perhaps because they've got no real reason to exist anymore other than to be anti-migrant.
Should the French authorities investigate, though? Nigel Farage's point is, you know, when you're in the European Parliament, you shouldn't really be under French law. Yeah. He's got a point, hasn't he?
No, you're going to claim crown immunity or something, and you're a subject of Her Majesty. So, you've got to abide by the laws of the country you're in. When in Rome, do as Romans do. Should they investigate, though? Well, it depends what Wolf and Right Uckham think about, really, rather than Schultz.
OK, well, let's have a quick listen to Schultz.
Today, Mr Weber made a defamatory statement against me, which you supported. Can I ask that both you gentlemen leave this building where you don't have parliamentary immunity and repeat those statements so I can take legal action against you?
I would have no problem at all with seeing you in court. I'd be very pleased to do so.
It just goes on.
It does. Those kind of exchanges do, though, make the European Parliament look ludicrous, and I think they should be aware of that.
Which UKIP's very happy about, I'm sure.
Yeah, but the last time Right Uckham went outside of we know what happened with Wolf, and so if I was Schultz, I'd stay where I am.
Yeah, OK. Let's move on quickly. Kevin, warning about ladybirds, and these aren't British ladybirds, these are foreign ladybirds.
I know, UKIP will be getting upset about this. Yeah, the Harlequin ladybirds been blown in, I suppose, from Asia and North America in their millions, and they're just appearing covering houses and cars.
And they're different because they're black. They've got black wings with red dots instead of red wings with
That's
black
right.
dots.
It's the opposite to our sturdy local ladybirds, but they've got some sexually transmitted disease. These newcomers, which are passing on.
La boule beniales, and it's a fungal disease, and it kills the red-backed ladybird.
I know, because I think they're marvellous.
Like squirrels all over again.
Yeah, they're marvellous insects, ladybirds, but I think I prefer to see one or two.
They also
rather than
apparently
thousands.
leave a nasty smell when they're in large groups and leave stains on furniture. They're altogether quite unpleasant beasts, the most invasive ladybird species on Earth. So.
Well, if you see a swarm of them, or whatever you call it, collect them out, shut your windows.
Roya, let's move on. Why is cremation a pretty hot topic in the church this week?
Well, Pope Francis, who until sort of this decision has seemed like a very forward-looking, tolerant pope, the Catholic Church has made a decision that actually Catholics shouldn't be able to scatter the ashes of their loved ones once they're cremated, or
now, why are you laughing, Kevin?
Or divide them up, or keep them at home, keep them in lockets, keep them in sort of vases. Because they feel, the Catholic Church decided that because they feel this is too much like, scattering them is too much like naturalism or nihilism.
Paganism, yeah.
Paganism. And I think, growing numbers of Catholics are choosing to cremate their loved ones and scatter their ashes for economic reasons, for ecological reasons, and they should be allowed to do that. And I think the Catholic Church is completely wrong to try and make its followers feel guilty for how they want to commemorate their loved ones.
Also, it strikes me, Kevin, that there's a lot that the Catholic Church could be tackling, a lot of problems that exist within religion around the world, and I'm not sure this is one of the greater ones.
No, I think if you did the top 10,000, it wouldn't make it, would it? And what do they think? All these bits of ashes are going to come, together when Christ rises or something. Look, people get a lot of comfort of taking the ashes of a loved one to scatter them in a beauty spot or at a river or on the sea, wherever it was they used to like to go. And I just think it's balmy, absolutely balmy. Just leave it alone. If that's how people get peace of mind, let them have that peace of mind.
Okay. Kevin, also this week, is the word super still so super?
Super. I think Roya thinks it's an evening meal, super, don't you? But no, it seems I think it's the Oxford English Dictionary. It's used too often, and some people will say, or all right, or actually, and there is a lot of use of super. I don't use it myself.
Super cool, super rich, super fast. I mean, super fast broadband. People talk about that as part of the language, isn't it?
But that's an accurate description. It's when people use super to say, oh, that was a super goal, or a super tea, or a super TV program. They're just super, 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 super. I think it's a certain class
it's the adding of it. It's an adjective being prefixed by that there is especially crossed about. I blame Superman anyway.
I like the word.
Super.
I mean,
Super. Good for you.
A raspy kiss. Anyway.
Oh, you're so cheeky. Thank you very much for taking us through the papers. What about your ups and downs? Roy, we're starting with you this week, and you're sending up Christopher Marlowe. He's finally got his name written on a Shakespeare.
Yes, hooray for Kit Marlowe. I think this is a wonderful story, actually. The new Oxford edition of some plays of Shakespeare's, particularly it's the Henry VI plays.
Yeah, parts 1, 2 and 3.
Are going to credit Kit Marlowe as co-author. centuries of debate over how much co-authoring Shakespeare did. The purists would always like to say he wrote everything himself. A vast sort of bank of scholars have come together and analysed these texts and decided that actually no, Christopher Marlowe was working with Shakespeare. And actually, I think this doesn't detract anything at all from Shakespeare's genius. It adds to it. It adds to the story of these two being rivals and probably exceptionally good friends too, but it also shows how clever Shakespeare, our greatest playwright ever, was to work with and collaborate with someone who's genius like Christopher Marlowe. I think it's a great story.
By Bill and Chris from now on, I'll be like the Gilbert and Sullivan of their time.
Bill Kit, they'll be called. Bill
Kit. Right, super. We'll send it up. You're sending down, though, this week, Roy, wet wipes and their effect on our sewer system.
Yes, this is a body of UK water companies who have written to advertising standards agencies and other bodies asking them to more clearly label wet wipes as non-disposable, because apparently there are around 88...
Well, it's not the baby wipes that people use, it's the flushable toilet wipes that are marketed as flushable.
It's both.
And they are flushable, but when you flush them, they cause these blockages.
Apparently, £88 million worth of customers' money is being spent clearing these blockages every year. I agree that perhaps labelling has a part to play, but I think consumers need to be a little bit more savvy and use a bit more common sense about what is and isn't flushable, disposable. I think sometimes with some wipes, it's quite clear that synthetic wipes probably are not going to be biodegradable.
Yeah. I can tell you, somebody blocked our drains using it. None of them would own up. Well,
somebody in the family.
Yeah, go on. There's a bill to pay. Yeah, go on. Who's going to,
you had to dig up the garden, didn't you?
I did. I had to find the manhole, the personhole cover. Because the plumber wouldn't do it. Then the plumber went into it. It was a messy job.
And it causes fatbergs as well, doesn't it? Where they block the sewers and then the fat congeals and forms this big fat, big lovely. It's a great subject. Hope we haven't put you off your dinner or your Sunday lunch. Right, so we're sending that down. You, though, Kevin, are sending up the new boss of John Lewis, Paula Nichols.
Yeah, hurrah.
I think she's done well.
Started in haberdashery 22 years ago, now the MD got to the top. And I suppose when we stop noticing women getting top jobs, it'll be an era of equality. It's just there are so few in companies. So good luck to her. She has worked her way up.
Yeah, a graduate trainee who, as you say, started on the shop floor, worked in haberdashery, but she's had some big successes, hasn't she? She's the one that was been behind all the tear-jerking ads of the last few years. So
I
they
hate
have
them,
increased
actually.
John Lewis's currency.
They have, they work, but I hate it.
You hate everything.
No, I just hate all that saccharine plastic, synthetic...
get over yourself.
Right,
we're sending her up. And you're sending down, equally grumpy, but I agree with you on this one, the selfie stick.
Hurrah! Apparently been around 11 years, but the sales are finally plummeting.
50% sales are down by, according to one store.
They're for short-armed people who are unembarrassable as they hold them. And I often see them in central London. You just sort of walk through them now, but it's
I hate them. But apparently we're in the majority. 70% of the country in a survey think that they are annoying.
They're annoying enough.
Yeah, so they're going. Good hurrah! Bye-bye to the selfie stick. We won't miss you. Brilliant. Sending it down. Right. Thank you both. Thanks very much for taking us through. And don't forget, do send us your nominations using the hashtag WINR for ups and downs. Well, thank you very much for joining us for our review of the week. We'll be back with much more next week, but for now, it's goodbye from them.
Goodbye.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. Oh, that was a nice